Over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. If we do nothing, someday it's gonna reach the likes of you.
The Sound of Freedom is perhaps one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. Like, it is not just any average movie. It feels like a true contender for such an amazing dark film. The film is very emotional, and it is very dark, haunting, and confronting. Yet I was very drawn to it, and even times when it was hard to watch, my eyes were still drawn to the movie. It is a very, very emotional film, and for those who do not want to watch it just because of the subject matter and how confronting it is, I completely understand. But for those saying that this glorifies child slavery, or this is a terrible movie because of the subject matter, or that it is conservative in nature and therefore it is bad, well, I think you're wrong. Because at the end of the day, this movie is honest. And that is something that a lot of movies nowadays lack.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's gonna pass the drug trade.
Jim Caviezel plays Tim Ballard, a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security, specifically the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And he essentially tracks down a pedophile, and he essentially arranges to save one child. And then he finds out that he has a sibling. So he goes on leave, and he eventually is able to track down this huge operation, and he was able to save around 54 kids. At least that's what they said in the movie. However, the child's sister, the one that he saved from the beginning, well, she isn't there. So he goes on a quest to find her, and he's able to do so and bring her back to her father. The movie is very, I've said this before, very confronting, and I don't think if you have if you're a parent, it is a very emotional film for you. As someone who has a sibling, I was just thinking of my sister the whole time, and it really brought out a lot of emotions in me, and it really got to me at times. I think everyone in the cinema had an emotional experience when watching it. There were moments of levity throughout the movie that it wasn't even a joke, but you just crack a smile because even in a dour situation, there are certain moments where, you can crack a smile. Now, I'm not saying it's not like Marvel humor. It's just moments of funny dialogue moments and just small little funny lines that make it not so dark at times. Now, overall, it is a very dark movie, but there are moments of levity that help you just, take a step back and be like, oh, thank God. Just something to smile about. And at the end of the movie, when Tim finds the little girl, it is a breath of fresh air. Like, you get a sigh of relief. Like, you feel like you've been on this journey with him throughout this whole movie. And when Tim and the audience finds her, it is just a sigh of relief. And the movie does it really well, showing the dangers of not really the dangers of child slavery, but just how horrific it is. Now, I've been reading up on this, and it says that it is an action movie, but I don't think so. There isn't actually any action in this movie if you honestly watch it. Like the opening act is essentially getting this pedophile. No shots done. They just grab him, they interrogate him, and then they eventually convince him to get a child and they save that child. In the second act, they have to technically heist their way and they are able to convince these child traffickers and they are able to save 54 kids without firing a single shot. The only time it gets action heavy is towards the end, where he has to go to this rebel camp to save this little girl. Now, there are some shots fired, for example, like these rebels giving warning shots, and then it beautifully climaxes to Tim fighting and killing the head of these rebels. And it is shot, directed, edited very well. And it is essentially from the point of view of this little girl. And it is just a very emotional film. Like that moment, every audience member just felt a sense of relief, I suppose. Yeah, a sense of relief when he kills this pedophile. And then as they escape, they are being shot at by people, the rebels, and some people, and that's it. That's all the action, just towards the end. He is able to save the girl and then bring her back to her father. There is barely any action in this movie. All the action is in a brief 10-minute moment towards the end. Not even 10 minutes. But it is an effective movie. I can't stress this enough. The Sound of Freedom is one of the best movies I've seen in so long. It is a beautiful, dark, emotional tale of a man just trying to save kids who are forced into slavery. The topic is very confronting, but if you're able to get through it, it is an amazing movie. And it really got to me. I will admit that. After the movie, I admit I called my mom and dad because this movie is one of those movies where it's not just you watch it and then you leave and you don't think about it. It is a movie where after the initial experience of watching it, you think about it and you dwell on it, and it just gives you this sense of, I guess, not anxiety per se, but just gives you thoughts about what this sort of movie represents. And this movie shows the worst of humanity and the best of humanity. And it is really horrific. Horrific that these kids go through this. And most people don't look at this movie as a great movie. They just think of it as a glorification of child slavery. That is far from the truth. This movie is an honest movie about the dangers of leaving your kids with strangers. It is every parent's worst nightmare. But when watching this movie, you just get swept into it. Now, the cast is brilliant. Like, the acting, top notch. The action is very effective towards the end. The dialogue, brilliant. Writing, fantastic. I don't have any complaints with this movie. I think it's brilliant. It is simply a brilliant film. And I honestly do not understand why people hate it. Is it because it's conservative? Is it because Twitter had an outrage? Well, I don't know. But I do recommend this movie. However, if you are very sensitive to the topic of child slavery, and if you're a parent, you may not want to watch it. But I sincerely hope that you do, because this movie is a beautiful, tragic tale. And I think that this may be one of my favorite movies this year, if not the best movie this year. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts if you did watch this movie. And as always, take care and have a good one.